Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving into a super relatable parenting topic, how we lovingly reward our kids. And we're going to start with a family moment that might actually surprise you a bit.
Picture this. Your kid brings home a 94 on a math test, and then on the next one, they get an 82. Which one gets the bigger celebration? Well, if we're being honest, we all naturally cheer for the 94, right? I mean, it's human nature. We smile, we give them a huge hug, and we say, awesome, let's go get ice cream. But what if that 82 actually involved attempting a much harder unit, totally changing up their study methods, and finally working up the courage to ask their teacher for help? Even though the score fell, their learning actually grew. That lower score represents a whole lot more actual growth.
So let's get into Section 1, the hidden risk of rewards.
Look, it makes perfect sense why we as busy parents tend to focus on the visible outcomes. Things like report cards, finishing a level, or bringing home a shiny trophy. We genuinely want to prepare our kids for the real world. And let's face it, in the real world, effort needs to lead somewhere, and outcomes absolutely do matter. But here's the catch. Those visible outcomes often hide the invisible process. Think about all the planning, the rough drafts and revisions, the late-night frustration, and just the sheer courage it takes to ask questions. All those quiet steps that go into actual learning. The surprising risk here is that by over-rewarding the final number we can easily see, our kids might start protecting their image instead of actually building their skills. They might just decide that their effort only matters if it guarantees a prize.
Which leads us right into Section 2, proving versus improving.
There is this fascinating core psychological shift that can happen right under our noses. Basically, a child can approach a task wanting to prove themselves. They're internally asking, how can I look good, or how can I avoid looking weak? That right there is a performance goal. On the flip side, they can approach it wanting to improve, asking, what can I learn, practice, or improve? That's a learning goal. Now, wanting a good grade isn't unhealthy at all. Real children have both of these goals, and performance goals aren't always harmful. But trouble definitely brews when protecting the appearance of success, that need for proving, overrides a kid's willingness to face a healthy challenge and honestly improve.
So what does this actually look like in real life? Well, you might notice some warning signs of this proving mindset. You might see your child hiding their mistakes or flat out refusing activities where winning isn't a sure thing. Maybe they're dropping demanding classes just to protect their GPA, or always blaming others after a tough loss. If you start seeing a repeated pattern of these warning signs, please don't shame yourself. It absolutely does not mean you've failed as a parent. Treat these moments as invitations to listen. It might just mean the family has accidentally taught that a visible win is the safest, and really the only path to your approval. All right, moving on to Section 3, common well-intentioned parent mistakes.
So, how do we gently guide them back on track without lowering our standards? First, we need to recognize some common traps we fall into. And please, give yourself plenty of grace here. We're talking about 6 incredibly well-intentioned mistakes we make as caring parents who just want to motivate our kids. Mistake 1 is celebrating only the wins, which can make results feel like a final judgment of the whole child. 2 is completely missing that quiet, invisible progress, like reading for just 10 minutes longer. 3 is a huge one, rewarding easy success, where the effortless A earns way more praise than that hard-fought B. 4 is punishing mistakes by pulling promised rewards. 5 is ranking them against others, which makes status the ultimate lesson. And 6, giving empty, try-harder praise. The absolutely crucial point to remember here is this. A mistake can carry a consequence without becoming a threat to honesty or connection. We absolutely must maintain accountability in our homes, but we have to make error review feel safe. When kids experience their mistakes as expensive threats, like losing a promised reward for every single missed math problem, their first goal becomes escaping blame, not actually studying the error so they can learn from it. We also really need to remember that just telling a kid to try harder simply isn't enough. Honestly, empty praise like, well, at least you tried, can actually sound pretty dismissive if they used a terrible strategy or rushed through the work. Kids need accurate process feedback to truly grow. Growth isn't just endless undirected effort. It requires honest feedback about their strategy, how they revise, and knowing exactly when to go ask for help.
Okay, Section 4, better everyday family moments.
Let's see how all this builds into some incredibly practical, everyday shifts we can make right now, whether it's at the homework table or in the car after a game. Take the classic report card scenario. A result-only response might sound like, 3 A's, you earn the new phone. But a much better response is, where did your habits help and where do you need a different plan?
Instead of just paying out for the A, this better response places the outcome right beside the process, ensuring that one single letter doesn't erase their entire learning story.
How about out on the sports field? Instead of just saying, 2 goals, that is worth $20, try something more like this. You scored twice, and you kept passing. Which decision do you think helped the team most? Notice how we aren't ignoring the outcome. We absolutely acknowledge those 2 goals. But we're also asking the child to reflect on the specific, strategic choices that made the whole team stronger. We see the exact same thing in music or the arts. Rather than saying, you won first place, so all those expensive lessons were worth it, we can say, the award is so exciting. I also heard how much steadier that difficult section became. This shifts our focus away from just that big, imposing, shiny trophy and gently points toward noticing the small, quiet steps, like finally slowing down during practice, that actually earned the award. That provides real evidence the child can use again next time. And for everyday homework, instead of demanding they finish perfectly so you can go play, try work carefully, mark what you don't understand, and we will check the strategy together. This encourages honesty and a healthy challenge. It actively prevents that strange little bargain where kids just pick the absolute safest, easiest route to finish their science project quickly without actually stretching their minds at all. That brings us to Section 5, the Build Action Plan. Now, before we dive into this toolkit, I want to offer you some strong reassurance. Please, whatever you do, don't stop cheering at their games or going out to a nice dinner after graduation. Celebrations, family dinners, and trophies are still entirely okay. Outcomes matter, and success should absolutely feel good. The goal of this explainer isn't to pretend that outcomes are irrelevant. The goal is simply finding balance. We just don't want to let handing over a prize completely replace a meaningful conversation about learning. So here is the build plan. 5 clean, practical steps to turn any success or failure into incredibly useful information by focusing strictly on controllable actions. B stands for begin with curiosity. Always ask what happened before you praise or criticize. U is unpack the process. Really look at their preparation and their strategies. I means identify one effective action they can repeat, like maybe testing themselves instead of just rereading a textbook. L is link the result to learning. Use the outcome as information, not some final label on your kid. And finally, D, decide the next controllable step for their next attempt. Make sure to keep it small enough that you can actually observe it. To put this into practice, you can also try this fantastic 7-day family reset. These are tiny, totally manageable steps you can take each day to shift your family's focus away from proving and toward improving. Day 1, just add the question, what did you learn, right after you ask about a grade. Day 2, catch one invisible improvement and describe it to them out loud. Day 3, ask what felt challenging. And then over the rest of the week, you can gently review mistakes safely, replace comparisons with personal benchmarks, add process reviews before giving out any rewards, and finally, just hold a quick 5-minute family check-in to see how you're all doing. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want you to remember this crucial idea. The result matters, and it is not the only thing we are going to study. This is absolutely the perfect phrase to keep right in your back pocket. It reminds your kids that their learning is still highly visible and deeply valued by you, even when a final result is disappointing. I want to leave you with one incredibly realistic action you can try today. The very next time your child hands you a grade, a score, or shows you any result at all, take a breath, pause, and ask them this single question. What did this teach you? Celebrate the win, study the loss, and keep your relationship steady through absolutely both of them. Thanks so much for exploring this topic with me.